Assalamu alaikum and good greetings. Welcome back to the channel. So today I have actually watched a video by Nasiha Session. This is a channel by I think Brother Imran, if I'm not mistaken, and the title is number 12. I think that's number 12 podcast session. I think Tawheed, Sunnah and Racism with Mr Whaatwaa. Muslim Experience podcast, right? So it is a podcast between I think he is more known in the YouTube as DawahMan with Mr Whaatwaa, which is a recently revered Muslim brother, right? So this whole video is 1 hour long video. I have watched it just now. I didn't intend to record a reaction to it. I have never yet do any reaction to such a long video so far, right? Because I doubt anyone who would want to watch a reaction to a 1 hour video, because it will become 3 hours video reaction. But throughout this video they discuss about a lot of things, including Tawheed, including the Sunnah, including the issue of racism. But in the middle of the discussion there are some gems, I think, that I just want to highlight in this video from what was said and shared by Mr. Whaatwaa. And based on this podcast, when I listen, apparently he have chosen the name of Hamza for himself after becoming a Muslim, right? So it is interesting reading to the comment. Some actually commented he looked like a Hamza, and that was what exactly come to my mind when I heard, oh, he chose the name of Hamza, he looked like a Hamza. And someone actually asked to that comment, right, what do you mean by he looked like a Hamza? And to think about it, I also, okay, what does that mean? Because it doesn't have a tangible answer, right? What does Hamza look like? But I guess it is kind of a stereotype that we have in our mind when we read the seerah, perhaps, right? We know the character of each of the Sahaba, each of the companion of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then we picture it in a certain way because we have some sort of stereotype, I think, like for example Umar. Oh, okay, his character is like that, so he must look like that, right? He must have that kind of appearance. And Uthman, he might be some soft-spoken person, so appearance wise we have some mental picture, right? Even though there's no real connection between a certain character with a certain physical appearance, right? But yeah, I'm not sure why. I also, well, he actually kind of looked like a Hamza, right? So there's no real explanation, but I think that is interesting. He have chosen that. I do not know whether he have ever mentioned that in his own channel, Mr. Whaatwaa channel, right? The name Hamza. I didn't realize that. But anyway, so these are, I think, several portions of the longer video. You can take a look at the full length video yourself for the whole podcast, and it is interesting to watch. I've watched the whole 1 hour, and I just want to highlight several portions of it. Coming from Mr. Whaatwaa himself, from his own experience. So the first portion here is this one, right? So maybe I'll put some place there for the clip. Right, so here goes.
My friend, right now, what would you be like if there's any Christians that are listening? I'd like them to hear from you, because they heard from me now. What like can you share some words of wisdom, something here, please?
The one thing I want to say is that especially if there's Christians listening, first things first is, it doesn't have to be this one, but I want you guys to go and get a Quran. No matter what anyone's told you or anyone has told you before, because that was the one mistake that I was going through in life before I took my journey, is to open up and read. Whatever you heard before, whether it's in the media or from a friend or family member, disregard all of that. All of your questions will be answered in this. All of them. All the questions that I have, even questions that I never thought that I had or would even think of, were being answered as soon as I started opening up this book and started reading the Quran. So, before before I was a Catholic, you know, and now I'm a Muslim man. So my first advice and my only advice to my Christians is disregard anything anyone has ever said about Islam and just open up the Quran and just start from the beginning and just read. Read it at your own pace. Don't feel like you have to speed read it. Just take your time, read, and try to, you know, understand. You will start to see that even questions in the Bible that you maybe had are being answered in the Quran. So that's my advice. And really, that's the only advice, because even, you know, with me, I wish I would have opened up the Quran earlier, like way back when. But I was listening to what people were saying. I was, you know, going to church and things of that nature, you know, going through life, you know, working, going through school and things of that. So if I actually took the time to say, you know what, let me sit down and read. Let me read this Quran and get my own perspective, my own point of view. That's one thing that I would tell myself maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you know. But at the end of the day, everything is under Allah's time and Allah's will. So I'm never regretful. I'm just happy that I was able to open up this Quran before my time was up. Honestly,
Wow.
That's my advice. That's my only advice. That's the only advice you need. You know, that's the only advice you need. I don't want to tell you to go to any surah or listen to any du'as or any recitations. No. Open up the Quran and read. That's the only advice. Only one.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That's actually beautiful, because
Okay, so that was the portion that I think I would be interested to relay to any of my Christian friends out there, Catholic or non-Catholic. Because that comes from a person who used to be Christian and Catholic himself, and based on his own experience, right? So do open up the Quran and read for yourself, and do not, because normally when I have any encounter with a Christian friend that say they have actually read the Quran, most of the time they do not read on their own term, where they open and read from the beginning and read through, right? Normally it is they have read specific verses that it has been picked up by several sources or several people to highlight certain things that they have already made in a certain narrative, right? So when they see that narrative, they already have that bias to accept that narrative in the first place, and then when they read, the perception is like that verses confirm that narrative, right? They do not read it as the source intended to be read in the first place, right? I'm not saying that there's no answer for those people and how to answer all those verses, but the process already becomes something else. It is already becoming that we have to always justify and answer, etc. And the communication already skewed in a certain way, right? You do not feel the full, narrative of the Quran from its own narrative, from the original source itself, right? So that's one thing that I think is very, very, very powerful there. Do that. Please do that. Inshallah, I think it will benefit you. Of course, these do not just go to the non-Muslim or Christian. Many Muslim have never actually read in that perspective, right? I've mentioned this in videos before, that many Muslims have read the Quran cover to cover in Arabic, which is alhamdulillah, which is good. But they have, because most Muslims are not Arabic speaking people, including myself. So they have never read the translation, at least. We do not go yet to the tafsir, right? We have never read the translation from cover to cover, meaning they have never actually understood the meaning of the verses from cover to cover, which is a problem in my opinion, right? Because then the only thing that you know about Islam is just like what the non-Muslim friend know about Islam. It is mainly from what is being relayed to by someone else. Just coincidentally, for them, what is being relayed is from those happen to be, wanting to say negative things about Islam. But for us, apparently accidentally the one that is being relating about Islam is those who are embracing Islam, and then they have their own narrative, right? So we have never actually put our effort to actually understand the Quran itself, right? So actually that advice go both way, right? To the non-Muslim and as well to Muslim. So I think from I don't know how many years before I started to make that a mission for myself, right? To, because normally in Ramadan we have the mission to khatam the Al-Quran, finish the cover to cover in that month, right? Because the ajr is huge. Alhamdulillah, many do that, right? But I have shifted towards, okay, let's read the translation from cover to cover, so that we actually get the benefit, not just the ajr for reading, but the benefit of understanding the message as well. That's actually more important if you want to argue between both, right? Yeah, and there's another portion there towards the end when there's another advice that was relayed. So we'll just listen through this as another part that I think I just wanted to relay in this video.
Bro, is there anything you want to mention at this before we conclude?
The only thing I want to mention is that, you know, whether you're a non-Muslim or a Muslim, the only thing that I want to mention is that just try to be the best person that you can be, because our time here on earth is limited. You know, it's very limited. So make sure you seek the truth, and make sure that the truth that you seek makes sense to you, it makes sense to God, Allah. That's my only thing that I want to say. No matter what you're doing on earth, always remember that we must return back to our Creator. So remember that. Stay close to your deen, and Allah is the only way. He's the only way that I feel, and I feel that if I'm going to give you any advice, follow only Allah, and that's it, only.
Bro, you know why that's so profound? Is because I said, do you have any last advices to say? And the last advice you said was that you're going to return back to your Creator and whatnot. And you know, the last thing Allah revealed in the Quran, the very last verse, was basically what you just said. Okay,
yeah, so to make it short, that is basically the last advice in the video from Mr Whaatwaa, I think. Yeah, so that would be something that I would like to relay. Hopefully we take benefit of those reminders from all around us, regardless of where it comes from. Inshallah, it will be beneficial for us if all of these reminders become something that actually affect us, the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act, inshallah. And hopefully all of us will have a great time in Jannah, in paradise, in the hereafter. And looking back to the dunya, looking back at our life today, we can share stories about our life journey, etc. there, inshallah. Even if we never find any, how to say, face-to-face interaction here, hopefully all of us can meet up and tell stories there, inshallah, in Jannah. Wallahu alam. I think I will end with that. Thank you for watching. See you next time.